Welcome into Unbreakable, a mental health podcast with Jay Glazer. I am Jay Glazer. And look, I've talked about needing teammates in my life. And the guy I'm having on right now is one of the baddest motherfuckers who've ever walked the face of the earth. So for all the men out there who are nervous or worried about opening up to other dudes about, oh, they're going to call you a wuss, or, oh, it's going to take away your manhood. This is the baddest motherfucker on the planet. And it's one of the guys I call when I'm struggling, when I'm hurting. I call him up and I say, dude, do me a favor. Come on over to the house. I'm struggling today. I'm hurting. And basically come on over and spar with me and punch me in the face so I can feel a lot better. And with that, I welcome in a man whose nickname is the Smashing Machine, who is one of the pioneers of mixed martial arts. He is a former heavyweight champ of the world. He was one of one at one point. He was the baddest dude on this planet. Again, my friend, Mark Kerr. Welcome, my brother.
Hey, Jay. Thank you for the introduction. And that's,
something A's or you in. And like basically tell everybody what happened after fighting, because you went down a dark road.
Yeah, what I understand now, Jay, is that I was trying to treat with alcohol and drugs a lot of different stuff that was going on with me, mental health wise. Not understanding any of it. And, once I got caught in that loop, it just is really hard to break, because you come out of I would come out of a stupor and I would have a moment of consciousness where I'm thinking straight. And then I would get trapped in that place again where I would be like, okay. And I would start self-medicating again. I would doing this and doing that. And, it ended up in, by the time I ended up looking up, 12 years of my life, 13 years of my life had gone by, and then you and I run into each other again, and it's just this perfect convergence, because I haven't done any of that stuff. I haven't done alcohol or drugs in quite a long time. And, understanding that, that you were put in my life for a reason, man, because I like I said, it's, the days you call me, hey man, I really need you up here and stuff like that, I'm getting just as much out of it. And I understand that, my mental health is based on the actions I take, not by what I take, and it's a big difference. It's a big difference, and, I put better people in my life around me, I better, a better personal relationship with the woman in my life right now. And, I have better relationships with my ex-wife and, better relationship with my son. And, and a lot of that it's taken a lot of trial and error,
Which took more out of you, the punches and elbows and kicks or the drugs and alcohol?
Oh man. Wow. The drugs and alcohol, man. I mean, realistically, it's, I could literally get punched every day, and they talk about in AA, they talk about like incomprehensible demoralization, and that's the feeling of like, I'm going to quit one more time. And you wake up from a bender, with this shame and guilt, and they call it an incomprehensible demoralization. Even at that moment, you're making all the promises in the world. I'm never going to do this again. I won't put myself through it. I won't put my family through it. I won't put my loved ones through it. And then a little bit goes by and you do it again. And then you end up in this loop. And, I was stuck in that loop for such a long time. And, just the guilt that I felt, the shame I felt, and all these things, I couldn't break free. And
did you get started with drugs and alcohol to replace the high of fighting, or was it because of your mental health issues?
I think it was a little bit of both, and part of what I'm figuring out now, looking back, I was trying to replace something, and it's just this, you always chase the first thing, like you chase, like as an addict, I'd always chase that first feeling of, that first, oh my God, euphoria or euphoric, and it was trying to replace that because like I said, there's nothing in the world that can replace that. Like in Japan, when I'm getting ready to fight and there's 95,000 people in the arena and I'm walking down that, the spotlight's on you, there's nothing going to replace that. I tried. It can't do it, and I've learned to go, okay, man, that was an experience. That was incredible. I've learned to look at it for what it was. This incredible gift life gave me to have that experience. And you've heard me talk about this. Bill Gates can't buy it. Right. There is Jeff Bezos, he can't buy it. Elon Musk can't buy. He can't buy that feeling I had walking down, getting in a ring, me and another dude in 95,000 people in an arena, getting ready to fight. You can't buy it.
But it took you 50 years to realize that, right?
Yeah, and took me a long fucking time.
And this is something else. Like Mark and I, there was a day he said to me, man, one of my struggles is that, like, I used to be Mark Kerr. And I'm like, no, motherfucker, you're Mark Kerr. And I want everybody out there to understand that. Just because you used to do something doesn't mean that person's gone now, that you're not doing it anymore. If you've done it once, you're that person. Use that. Build up that equity. And as I said this to Mark, no, you're fucking Mark Kerr. The kid that we were at the gym, Mark and I, the kid behind the desk said, excuse me, by any chance, you Mark Kerr? Right?
Absolutely right on. Yeah.
The universe conspiring.
Yeah.
But, I want people to understand that I think we chase a lot of past glories, and that leads to a lot more mental health issues instead of being proud for what we've done. And it took you a long time to realize, no one could spend, and every athlete out there, I want them to hear this, that people can't spend billions and billions and billions of dollars to get what you have behind your rib cage, and you can't buy that. And once you've had it, you've had it. It's always, you have to look at it like it's always back there behind your rib cage as a medal on your wall, and nothing could take that off except you.
Yeah, and Jay, it's there's a cerebral, like, I understand this, but there's a feeling of like when I finally got it. When I finally got it, I can intellectualize it and say, it's like, he's telling me I can never, but it's genuinely, it's a feeling, it's a feeling of like, you can't take that from me. I've earned that, that's something I've earned, it actually took that and, quite a few more conversations with you, for me to work through some of that. Cause that's some of the stuff that, that I had difficulty around I think every athlete does. I don't think there's one athlete that walks away from any sport and just easily, transitions into regular life and just just in it. I look at it like it's a tall task, but you can work through it. You can work through it. And, I tried with drugs and alcohol to run from it. And, now I'm embracing the fact that, hey man, that's my experience, man.
You did this. Nobody
can do it. Nope.
You did it. You don't have to keep doing it over and over and over to say you did it. That's what I want people to really understand. Give me, and again, I learned a lot from you, and I call Mark because we get each other, but you've been in Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Al-Anon, right? And you come up with different things. Give me like the most important thing that you have learned as an addict that you could, impart on our listeners that could help them.
What I've learned for myself is, one of the groups called Adult Child of an Alcoholic. And a lot of what I didn't understand, I grew up in an alcoholic family, and I didn't understand how that really impacted me. As a child, you can't choose your parents. You can't choose, you live with them, they impact you almost like your parents are godlike figures, and they impact you. And what I've understood through my recovery from alcoholism and drug addiction and stuff like that is understanding where I came from and how that impacted me, has just such a huge importance on my recovery. And, first thing is you need to be, I had to be off of drugs, off of alcohol, and then I could look at everything else, but without being sober, it doesn't really matter what I do. It's just, you get caught in this loop. I was caught in this loop that just wouldn't let me go. It wouldn't let me go. So anybody out,
little kid in you. Yeah, go ahead.
no, and that's it. That's literally it, man. Like I've had to like look at my 6-year-old self, like what you were talking about, man. I'm gonna start crying if I talk about it. So, yeah,
You're good, brother. You're safe.
yeah.
With me and all our teammates, you're safe.
That day I was at the house when you got back from Thailand,
Mm-hmm.
and you're talking about like, what would you say to 6-year-old Jay?
Yeah, I said, what I learned in Thailand is sit in my pain and put my arm around little Jay.
Yeah,
Jason,
yeah,
and give him a hug and show him compassion because he never felt like he had it.
yeah. Incredible. Yeah.
So you've been able to.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And
I want people here to understand here again. Here are two bad motherfuckers sitting here crying openly in front of the public, in front of America right now. Nothing about this makes us weak. This
no.
makes us bad motherfuckers.
Oh, 100%, man. It is, it strengthened my vulnerability, and, part of healing myself is to completely get that, if I'm not willing to dig below the surfaces, I'm doing myself such a disservice, man, such a disservice as a human being, because other people look at us and they go, oh, he's and it's like, no, man, you know what, man, the part that people are attracted to me is my vulnerability.
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
No doubt. I'm the only one attracted to you because you punched me in the face. Nobody else.
That's a little different, right?
So,
oh man.
Amazing though. But this is, again, I want all the dudes out there to hear this, and all the women listening to let their dudes listen to this. Go, man, this dude's a killer, and he's crying to Jay openly.
Yeah.
There's no shame in it. Instead, I'm admiring you for it. You admire me for it when I cry to you.
Oh,
and that's how we have to change this world. We've got to start being open and vulnerable with each other like this, because if we don't and you hide your pain, that's when you hide it in dangerous ways.
Oh God, man. And you're right on that. It is just imperative, man, that, let a father be vulnerable to his family, his father be vulnerable to, I
tell head coaches in the NFL, be vulnerable with your team. And you know what? I went out and spoke to the Minnesota Vikings, gave a whole big thing on this. And I saw Kevin O'Connell just after they beat the Colts, and they come back crying in his locker room. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. How much more are those guys now going to lay it on the line for you, that you just cried in front of them, showed them that you're real, not, oh, no, nothing stops me, nothing breaks me, nothing like, and I know it's called Unbreakable, but what makes you unbreakable is that vulnerability.
Yep.
Right?
Because, yeah, absolutely, man. If people can understand that to be unbreakable is just that, is that when you get down to the core of who you are and you express that vulnerability, you are unbreakable. There's nothing out there that can break you because you're exposed, man. I'm a human being. I cry and I get vulnerable, you know?
The last question I have for you, my brother, since we're on the term of unbreakable, I ask every guest, give me your unbreakable moment. What's that moment when something should have broken you and didn't, and you came through the other side of that tunnel, and now you're stronger as a result?
Man, there's actually the biggest moment that is when I, at my lowest point, man, when I overdosed on drugs, when I overdosed. And at that moment, man, it was so overwhelming.
You and I have never talked about it. What did you?
No, I overdosed on morphine, and it was one of those things where, at the moment when I realized I didn't die, right, and I'm in the hospital, and I'm just, and again, this is this moment of this incomprehensible demoralization and feeling of like, just this feeling of just such shame, but such relief that I didn't die, and like promising to God that I'm going to do the most with my life and all of this. And, it's like from that moment, man, I was working my ass off, but in a different way. I was working it to get medals, to get medallions, to get belts, to get world championships, which there's nothing wrong with that. But the big deal is that I made a different promise to God. I promised him that I would affect, those around me in a way that I just wasn't at the time. And it's taken me now to get to this point, Jay, to where I understand, where I am at this moment in time, and it's to fulfill that promise I made, way back when. So
I love that, dude. And you know what? You and I spoke. I made the same promise. When you read my book, Unbreakable, it's me almost dying. I'm at Cedars-Sinai Hospital, and the whole room goes to the other, goes about 10 feet away. I was like, God, if this is my moment, I love you, and it's okay. But I think I have more to do in this world. And if you could step in here, I promise I will do more to help in this world and to help inspire and change people's lives and save people. And that's what this podcast is for me. That's what the book was for me. It was my version of keeping my promise to God, where we could help people with their mental health. We could help people. MVP was part of that promise for me, Emerging Vets and Players, and Unbreakable is part of it. That book was really me keeping my promise to God that I would do more for this world. And that's, I think a lot of people forget when they make that promise.
Man,
they just like, all right, now I'm saved. Now I can go back to just doing shithead things again.
Yeah. And that was part of, there's no coincidence. It's why you're in my life now. I'm in your life. And, it's a lot of things that I still have